Your girl broke your best friend's arm the day I got to Chicago. So never in your life get it twisted who's running.
I'm afraid mistakes will not be tolerated.
Now, today we're going to be talking about how the stage is almost set, how the stage is set for various different storylines, such as Tommy being kicked out of CBI, but mainly the aftermath, how that will then have a knock-on effect for potentially another big bad, and also the call to Tariq. It does look like everybody is against Tommy Egan, plus or minus a few unlikely alliances. He is giving shades of Ghost again when he was on smoke at the end of season 6, and we all know what happened towards the end of Power. It turned into everybody against Ghost. They all wanted him dead. So I do think they're setting the stage. They're now setting the stage for Tommy to become that lone wolf. They're setting the stage for everybody to be against Tommy, minus an unlikely alliance with Miguel and possibly Shanti. But how they could also be setting the stage for the next big bad that would then bring Tariq crossing over to Chicago. And could that either be the Chinese or the Italians? The Chinese definitely look like they could really be some big players in the world of Power and actually bring something fresh and different that we haven't seen before. So that definitely is going to be a topic of discussion in today's breakdown. How the stage is almost set for everybody to be against Tommy, the next potential big bad, and how it's now slowly making more and more sense why Tommy will soon have to call Tariq in all things Power Book 4 Force Season 3. Now, Tommy definitely has shown shades of Ghost before, but he has been showing more Ghost-like traits more than ever in Season 3, and there were a few more in Episode 6. When he came to Vic's penthouse, the way he was in Vic's face, telling him that he ain't shit, don't forget who's running shit, he isn't a gangster like his father once was. He even went as far as taunting him about sleeping with Gloria the day he got into Chicago, as well as snapping his best friend's arm. The way he told Diamond that this is his coalition, and when I actually watched this episode back, it was very reminiscent to when Ghost was on Demon Time towards the end of Season 6, when he was making an enemy out of literally everyone and anyone. For example, Rashad Tate.
No matter what, nothing can stop me from winning. Then some people can never win. That's you. No matter what you put your mind to, well, it never works out. I mean, it falls apart in your little ass hands.
This is what Tommy reminded me of when I watched episode 6 again. The way he was moving, talking, and behaving with all these players around him, the way he just went for Vic and put him in his place, reminded me of Ghost doing the exact same thing with Rashad Tate. I'm not saying Vic doesn't deserve it, and I do think Diamond does also need a reminder from time to time that Tommy was the one who put CBI back on the map. He technically is the coalition, but it is very Ghost-esque from Season 6, which in the end proved to be his downfall towards the end of Power. Everybody was gunning for him as he started to become more and more alone, as we started to get into the home stretch for Season 6 of Power, where come the end, it was just him. He was completely isolated. You could maybe argue Ramona was by his side, but the rest like Simon Stern, those in politics, they weren't really his friends. They definitely weren't people that he could trust. And I do think this is where Tommy now is heading going into the final stages of Season 3 of Force. Tommy is constantly having these conversations with the likes of Diamond, Vic, and even Stacey Marks, just like Ghost did with Rashad Tate. From Diamond's point of view, he seems to have had enough of being treated like a number 2. So he went and made a move of his own with Madame Wu to show that he's still the man in charge. He wanted to make a move behind Tommy's back just to show that he can, and Tommy's not the one calling the shots. With Vic, because you have Tommy constantly pressing his boot on his neck, because you have Tommy constantly tightening that chain that he has around Vic's neck, it's aggravating Vic to the point where he's now started to make moves like Tate did against Ghost. Vic's thinking the same thing as Rashad Tate did. Do you know what? Fuck it. What have I got left to lose? I'm already pretty much fucked anyway. Why not go out at least and try and reclaim the Flynn legacy and the Flynn name back? And I do think the way Tommy spoke to him, the way the Albanians spoke to him, that definitely sparked the fire inside Vic, just like it did with the others when it came to Ghost back in Power. We're now seeing him making moves to take back control of the North. He's made his moves to get his bars back, and he's probably going to be siding with Jannard, Diamond, and the CBI against Tommy in episode 7. He's also got Jannard and Diamond making moves behind his back and also strengthening their brotherhood, and we all know there's no love lost between Jannard and Tommy. All the issues with Jannard, Diamond, and CBI are going to come to a head in episode 7, and it's all going to lead to Tommy being forced out of CBI, and him turning into that lone wolf.
Is anyone working with Tommy?
No, he's a lone wolf now.
Now, if any of you guys were wondering who was on the other end of this phone to Vic in this trailer scene, it's Bobby DeFranco. Why Bobby has decided to call Vic and why he seems to be in play all of a sudden, who knows? But I did think it was worth a mention. Does that mean Stacey Marks is no longer in the frame? Possibly. There are these couple of scenes that are still yet to come in for Season 3. Just some food for thought, and I did think it was worth raising, so let me know your thoughts. But I do think the writers are genuinely doing a great job at isolating Tommy in this final season. He doesn't have the likes of Liliana that he can trust and lean on. He can't trust anybody in his own organization. He's also going to lose his entire coalition. He also doesn't know who he can trust in the streets. I have mentioned Shanti before, but even though their interests may align towards the end, again, the question still remains whether she is someone he can actually trust and count on, because she'll always look out for number one, no doubt. And it really is just going to go from bad to worse for Tommy. Not only will he be isolated and kicked out of CBI, but he's also probably going to be brought to his knees when he finds out about JP's death. Gary Lennon did tease it prior to season 3, there will be something that brings Tommy Egan to his knees. That's going to be another sucker punch that will no doubt isolate him even more. He's going to end up losing his brotherhood that he had with JP. Just recently we spoke about how family means a lot to someone like Miguel Garcia, but the same can also be said about Tommy. So if you think it's bad when he gets kicked out of CBI, I mean that's not even scratching the surface of how bad it's actually going to get for Tommy. That's when they're going to kick him once again. It's going to go from bad to worse for Tommy. He's going to be brought to his knees when and if he finds out about JP's death. So it's not just the fact that he's going to be kicked out of CBI that will make him a lone wolf. If and when we do see JP's death, that is going to be another loss of another brother, and that is going to hurt him even more. He definitely does have DMAC and Kate, and there will be light at the end of the tunnel. Something that Rock said in Raising Kanan once was, out of pain comes her strength. And the same could definitely be said about Tommy. Out of pain, he will show strength. Him and DMAC will no doubt have each other's backs, so that is at least one person he can trust in the streets. But with power, when you see that glimmer of hope or that light at the end of the tunnel, we all know what happens next. Another problem just seems to pop up around the corner. So I do want to put CBI to one side. I do think we've spoken about them enough this week. I want to actually talk about two potential threats that we could see beyond the CBI or the Marquez cartel. And could they end up being why Tommy makes that call to Tariq? And they're both the Italians and also the Chinese that we were introduced to back in episode 6, Madame Wu. Now in terms of the Italians, Gary Lennon did speak about a potential OG character returning in episode 6. I gave you the quote in the build up to last week because even I was anticipating an OG character to return, but nothing ever actually materialized in episode 6. I personally think the most logical explanation is he may have probably got it mixed up with another episode. I do still think an OG character will return, which is not Tariq. If he said it in an interview with TV Line, there's no reason for him to kind of throw us down the wrong direction and misdirect us with that. We've seen what they've done with various different Easter eggs back to power, and that's something that they've been really great with in season 3, which I do think will definitely continue. And one way they can do that is with the Italians. They definitely mentioned them back in episode 1 for a reason, and we all know the rich history that both Tariq and Tommy have with the Italians. I also still believe 100% that it is an arc that will come in the future, but I also do think it will be Tommy's endgame too. The Italians, the Civello mob, and the whole Elisa Marie arc. They've just recently started teasing the end of Tommy's character arc and how they're starting to think about it. I just wonder if they still have a couple of seasons left, which will be Power Legacy and then maybe a Power movie or two, which has been in discussion apparently. Will there be another big bad in a story arc before we get to the Italians? And could that potentially be the Chinese who we were introduced to in episode 6? This is something we recently spoke about just in my last breakdown. We spoke about how there's a real lack of a fear factor, especially when it comes to hitters in the world of power. And I do think the same goes for a big bad or an organization that really strikes fear into us as the audience, where we think, damn, they really do have Tommy's number. The last time we really saw these characters fear someone was Milan. You could maybe add Jason Michich into the category, but the way Ghost was spooked when it came to Milan, the way he almost had Tommy beaten to death, that's something that we haven't seen for a very long time in Power, where Tommy really does have his back against the wall against an organization or a big bad. When we were introduced to Madame Wu in episode 6, she's someone who commanded respect, she's clearly feared. You saw the look on Big Smurf, Jannard, and how Manny went into a shell a little bit when Madame Wu gave her this ice cold look. She was just there casually putting body parts into boiling hot oil or acid or whatever this was. She was actually just casually moving these body parts without a care in the world. This organization, Madame Wu and the Chinese, they definitely look like the real deal. That could potentially prove to be a very big threat in the world of power. A threat that we've never seen before. Just imagine a scenario where Tommy does come out on top against CBI, who have just agreed to move X amount of fentanyl per week, or however much product they've agreed to, but then Tommy does deal with CBI. What happens to the deal that they put in place with Madame Wu? Would Tommy then be their next target if Tommy were to fuck up her business with CBI? It's definitely thinking ahead a couple of episodes, but the theme of this particular breakdown is how they're setting the stage, for what comes next after CBI and also the Marquez cartel, which is Tommy having his back against the wall, him becoming a lone wolf, him having all these problems, which then forces him to call Tariq. So could the Chinese actually be the next big bad that kind of just bridges the gap before we get to Tommy's endgame, which I still do believe will be the Italians? Could the dice game also be a problem that DMAC created back in episode 2, where he stole this brick? Could this come back around? Could this cause a problem with Tommy and the Chinese? Because let's not forget, Madame Wu did make reference to it in episode 6. The body parts that she had chopped up was of the security guard in that particular dice game. So they haven't forgotten that a brick was stolen. And I still wonder if it's something that could maybe come back around to haunt DMAC. But coming back around to the beginning and the start of this breakdown, how it's everybody against Tommy, how it seems like he's about to be isolated, whether it's a problem with the Chinese next after the CBI and the Marquez cartel, whether it's the Chinese or the Italians, is that what then sets the stage for him to call Tariq? Joseph Sikora recently even spoke about Tariq popping up in force. There are BTS shots showing Tariq in Little Village. Remember how I mentioned to you guys Kate is standing inside the house area of Miguel's bar? This is Tariq in the exact same location. Gary Lennon has also spoken about Michael Rennie Jr. and a potential return. I'm just wondering what the next arc will be after Tommy's done with CBI and the Marquez cartel, because the stage is almost set for that phone call. Tommy's about to become a lone wolf. He's about to become isolated where he's going to need some help. The reason why I believe it'll be a completely brand new arc in a new direction, such as the Chinese or maybe the Italians, is because of what Joseph Sikora teased on a Reddit page prior to season 3. He said that episode 9 is more like a finale, with episode 10 then taking the show into a completely new direction. And with Madame Wu's introduction, I am kind of left wondering, are they setting the stage for them to be a problem? Could they be the next story arc, or could it be the Italians that bring Tariq and Tommy together? Now, if I'm being honest, I'm hoping we do see more of Madame Wu and the Chinese. I want to see them come back around to DMAC because of the brick that he stole back in episode 2. I do think that threat would be different. They could definitely run with that arc for a while and then move over to the Italians as Tommy's endgame. By then, the actress who played Elisa Marie would probably be 23, 24 maybe. Perfect time to bring her back and finish this conversation that they had back in Power as Tommy's endgame. So those are just a few thoughts around Tommy becoming a lone wolf, the next stage, what they may or may not do. There definitely is a lot of options. There's a lot of directions they can take this going forward. One thing's for sure, they will definitely begin to isolate Tommy's character even more so after episode 7. And then it's just dominoes falling for him to call Tariq. Why he calls Tariq? Is it to help with the war with the CBI or the Marquez cartel? Or do they actually have something brand new planned for episode 10 to take it in a completely new direction? Maybe with the Chinese or the Italians? Drop all your thoughts down below in the comment section. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.